We have a great show for you today. So Ron DeSantis flew over to Israel and passed a bill for Florida in Israel. The first time he did this, went to Israel and passed a bill for Florida in Israel, set a new precedent because it was the first ever Florida bill passed on foreign soil. Because why would you be passing a bill for Florida in a foreign country, especially when that bill benefits the foreign country you're in? This begs the question that nobody asks. Is Ron DeSantis working for a foreign country? And don't celebrate just yet, because it's not just Ron DeSantis. It's the status quo, not just in the GOP, but in the Democratic Party as well. This is going to be a very loving stream. No hate, no anger, just straight facts. Without further ado, the Dream Rare podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. It's going to get less views than most of mine, but I think it's one of the most important ones, so hopefully people do stay tuned and share this one. Now, the day everybody's been waiting for, because obviously I've been critical of Donald Trump, and a lot of people that like Donald Trump and don't like Ron DeSantis have been like, well, how come Anomaly never says anything about DeSantis? Well, today's your lucky day, because it's going to be mostly about Ron DeSantis. So we're going to be talking about the fact that Ron DeSantis flew over to Israel to pass a law for Florida in Israel, a hate crime law, and he's flown over there to pass what I would consider a hate speech law, and we got to talk about it. Before that, I want to give a disclaimer. I don't have to, but I want to. I don't believe in violence, obviously. I mean, this is obvious, but I'm just throwing it out there. I don't even believe in hate. I think hate and anger are lame. You're not a victim. It doesn't matter if you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, black, white. I don't think you're the victim. I don't even believe in anger. I think when you're overly angry, it says more about you than other people, and God gave you the ability to be who you want to be and be a great person. So I don't believe in hate, and I don't believe in violence, obviously. With that being said, that's what this is going to be misconstrued for, because I'm going to expose these bills for what they are, which in my opinion is hate speech bills that make no sense. So let's go for the first time that Ron DeSantis flew over to Israel and passed a bill for Florida. Because the critics are going to say, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Oh, you hate them. Oh, you hate them. It's not true. Don't hate the country. Don't hate people. It doesn't take me watching 21 Jump Street to realize that Jonah Hill's funny or whatever. No knock it. Yeah, I just thought that was funny. But I don't have hate in my heart, and I don't hate any countries in the world. I'm just being honest. All right. So Florida has never had a bill passed for Florida on foreign soil before, right? Before DeSantis, that's never happened, because why in the world would you fly over to another country and pass a bill for that country specifically, but just in general? So DeSantis broke that with his first bill. I'm going to read it in a second and tell you what it says. And he passed the first ever Florida bill on foreign soil. And the bill was in Israel, and the bill was for Israel, in my view. So before we get into that bill, I'm just going to be really clear. You could look all this up yourself, but I have it here. A lot of the hate speech laws and the hate speech stuff that DeSantis has passed, even Donald Trump passed an executive order, it all comes from the State Department definition of anti-Semitism, which was defined within the last 10 years by some Holocaust memorial. I think it's IHRA, International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And they made a list of what they consider anti-Semitism, right? I don't believe in hate. I don't believe in violence, but I do believe in the truth, and I do believe in the First Amendment. I think it's a good one. And in my opinion, this is not stopping hate, and this is not stopping violence. These are some of the craziest speech laws that the State Department has defined as anti-Semitic hate speech, that Ron DeSantis has signed into law as anti-Semitic hate speech, or at least the guidelines of what anti-Semitic hate speech is. And Donald Trump actually passed an executive order to stop this type of anti-Semitic hate speech on college campuses. So let me read to you a few of these hate speech laws that has been defined by the State Department. They consider this anti-Semitism. Ready? Here's the first one that I thought was pretty wild. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews, or such as the powers of Jews as collective, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy, or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. So if you say Jewish people control media, even though statistically I think there's some validity to that statement if you're going by math statistics. That's now considered anti-Semitic hate. According to DeSantis, people who pass these bills, the State Department, and groups like the ADL. So, talking about media control, it's anti-Semitic. That's why they call you anti-Semitic when you talk about Soros or when you talk about Bloomberg. It's not that you're being anti-Semitic. I mean, probably some of the critics are Jewish themselves, but they just have defined these laws as like, Jewish media. Saying those things in the same sentence is just like anti-Semitic. You shouldn't talk about it, even though anybody with a Wikipedia can figure out the truth. Here's another one of the laws that is now being passed in Florida. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, or even for acts committed by non-Jews. So it's anti-Semitic to accuse Jews for being responsible for real wrongdoing or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group. See, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, I don't think this should be passed into hate speech legislation, but I wouldn't mind that if every person on television wasn't blaming all white people for something one white person did. So it's like if Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, all white people are responsible. They constantly blame, and a lot of people on television that are doing it are black or Jewish or white. So why can a Jewish media executive blame white people for everything that they didn't do? But Ron DeSantis runs over to Israel to pass hate speech legislation that says that you're not allowed to do that for them. Let's equal the playing field. Let's make it a hate speech law that you can't say that it's my fault that someone sailed on the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. You can't say it's my fault when some people can't stop doing evil stuff and somehow it's my fault systemically. No, you don't want to do that. You want to keep writing articles about how all white people are responsible for everything. Well, it doesn't seem really fair to me. I don't think that should be legislated. I'm just saying these laws, they don't include my religion. They don't include my ethnicity. So why would I support an anti-First Amendment concept that doesn't apply? And to be fair, I do believe that ethnic conversations about white, Jewish, Asian, black, I do believe they should be had because, I mean, there are going to be hateful people, obviously, but I don't think you can legislate hate. And now it's like, oh, if you say that crime statistics exist, that's racist. Is it racist or is it statistically true? Saying that, this neighborhood outlawed, abortion because they're Christian, is that hate speech? No, Christians don't like abortion. So if Christians move in unison to an area, they are going to outlaw abortions. If Muslims take over a community, they're going to implement Sharia law or some sort of output of it. So if Jewish people do stuff, would they ever do things in unison? No, never. And it's not a hateful thing. It's just statistically. It's like if America was 99% Christian, abortion would be probably completely outlawed. That's not hate. That's just like what Christians think. That's what Muslims think. There's no similarities? No, nothing exists. It's just individuals. I don't know. I find it a little disingenuous to try to police speech around race. I don't believe in hate, but I don't think you could legislate that. That's my opinion. Here's another one of those laws. Accusing the Jews as people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. So that's now a hate speech violation. Notice it's not just inventing, it's exaggerating. So there's actually media reports, mainstream media reports of couples lying about their story. I believe they were on, I don't want to say Oprah, but mainstream outlets. And this couple had this whole story. They wrote a book about it. They actually got caught lying about it. And then they had to admit that they lied on national television. I'm not saying everybody's lying, but they were. But if you were to say that they were, that could be a hate speech violation because that, they can't possibly exaggerate, even though they literally did and had to admit to doing that specific couple. But, why not just legislate hate or speech when you can't say that, but you could say anything, but just not that. Okay. Interesting. One of the hate speech laws that the State Department has defined and that Ron DeSantis' government is going by is accusing the Jews as a people. Oh, no, that's the one I already did. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than the interests of its own nation. So now it's considered anti-Semitic hate speech to say that there's any Jewish person, obviously not everyone is, but it's impossible that any Jew could be more interested in their priorities than of the nation they live in. Well, if you go to the Anti-Defamation League's website, the ADL, they pretty much specify that they're an international Jewish organization, and one of their main goals, if not their main goal, is to focus on the priorities of Jews worldwide. That's literally defined on their Wikipedia. But you can't say that they're doing that because that's anti-Semitism. They are. They're, of course, doing it. But that's hate speech. And Ron DeSantis wants you to know, and not just Ron DeSantis, by the way, most politicians, they want you to know that that's no good. Ben Shapiro agrees with all this stuff, by the way. Facts don't care about your feelings unless facts go against his beliefs and bias. Then all of a sudden, Ben Shapiro's nowhere to be found. Big shocker. Not. Does Prager speak out about this stuff? No, he doesn't. I wonder why. Interesting. Anyway, I'm going to read a few more of the laws before we go on to what DeSantis is passing, because I'm going to walk you through history real quick. Here's another one that you're not allowed to say. Anti-Semitism, according to the State Department and these laws that DeSantis are passing, would be denying the Jewish people the right to self-determination, example, by claiming that the existence of Israel is a racist endeavor. Here's my thing. I don't say that. Personally, that's not a statement that I say, but every day I wake up, you have hundreds of millions of people telling me that America's racist, that America, needs to be destroyed and everything's racist about it, and Europe is racist. So all I'm saying is I don't cry hate speech. Do you hear me ever say, I'm a victim? I'm not a victim because I'm white. I'm not a victim because I'm Christian. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim because I'm American. I'm not a victim for any reason. But I just want the same equality where it's like if every day I wake up and you tell me that my entire country and my entire existence, my entire race, my entire religion, it's all racist and it shouldn't exist, or, it needs to be dethroned, then let's all live by the same rules. But of course we can't. They get protections, of course, because they totally don't control Congress. Let's read a few more. Applying double standards by requiring a behavior of it not expected or demanded by any other democratic nation. So now they are trying to police how much you criticize Israel and other nations. Here's what I have to say about that. I would say I talk about Ukraine more than I talk about Bolivia or like Belgium. Why do I talk about Ukraine more than I talk about Belgium and Bolivia? Do I hate Ukraine? Do I hate Ukrainians? Do I love Belgium? No, the reason I talk about Ukraine more than Bolivia and Belgium is because Ukraine has a war and they're taking hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money, and it's just a bigger influence on America. Bolivia, I have no idea what they're doing. Belgium, I would assume there's some good chocolate and waffles there and some great people. Outside of that, I don't really have much reason to talk about it. Is that because I hate Ukraine? No, I always say this, and I truly mean this, by the way. I'm not just saying this to virtue signal. You can't brainwash me into hating a race or a country. A lot of people do. A lot of leftists do. A lot of right-wingers, they say they don't, but they hate Iran, or they hate this country, or they hate China. I don't hate any country. I don't hate China. I don't hate the Chinese. I don't hate Israel. I don't hate Palestine. I don't hate Saudi Arabia. I know that there's good people everywhere. Every Chinaman or China woman is not responsible for the Chinese government. Every Ukrainian is not responsible for Zelensky, and every Jew is not responsible for Israel. So you can't make me into that person. They'll try to be like, oh, you hate this country or that. I actually legitimately don't hate any country because I understand that God made everybody, and I understand that there's pros and cons to everything. Why would I hate a country? I don't get it. I don't do it. With that being said, I don't want to be policed on which country I'm allowed to criticize on what. If I were to criticize Israel more than Bolivia, it's not because I hate Israel. It's because Israeli politics is intertwined with American politics, and I would say they've completely lobbied both parties of government to the point where you're better off in America hating America than you would be to hate Israel. I don't think you should hate America or Israel, but if you're in American politics and you were to despise one country and obsess over one country, you're better off obsessing over Israel because that's more important to your existence in Congress than liking America. It's just true. They have our entire political system in a stranglehold. And we'll talk about it later, but I don't know any other way to say it. It's not a hateful thing. It's just reality. Is Chile controlling American politics? No. Is DeSantis flying over to Chile to pass a Chilean loyalty speech law? No. Why? Because Chile has no money or power. Saudi Arabia has money and power. Israel has money and power. America has money and power. Russia has money and power. This is just how it works. No offense to Chileans, but it's like if you guys had oil money or if you guys had, control of something, then maybe people would talk about you more. But it's just the way the world is. Like Venezuela, we really care about. They have oil. If they didn't have oil, you never hear about the socialism there, in my opinion. Let's read a few more of the laws before we move on. So one of the anti-Semitic hate speech laws, for those just joining, on the State Department website, being passed into legislation directly and indirectly by Ron DeSantis. One of the hate speech laws says it is anti-Semitic to use symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism. Example, that Jews killed Jesus, or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis. So, talking about that classic anti-Semitic statement that Jews killed Jesus, that's no good. I would say that's biblical, and that's a biblical interpretation, but it's not surprising to me that the GOP is passing laws to essentially make the Bible hate speech, because that's who the GOP is. It's like they print $6 trillion and they pretend they're about socialism. They fund vaccine socialism and pretend they're fighting big pharma. They sell the product and then cry about it. They basically make their Bible illegal, and then they act like they're standing up for Christians. The GOP is such controlled opposition, it's like laughable at this point. And I'm sorry if anybody thinks that they're like really fighting for Christians in America. I wish they were. They're definitely better than Democrats, but it's not saying much, because look at Joe Biden. It's like, what? We're better than Joe Biden. So is this, whatever. It's like a paper towel is better than Joe Biden. Cool. Congrats. Two more, and then we're going to move on. According to the State Department and Ron DeSantis' speech laws, drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis is anti-Semitic. Here's an example I like to use because it just sticks in my head. One person I follow on Twitter that I really enjoy his takes is Mark Loebner. Mark Loebner is a successful business owner, a great American patriot, and just an interesting guy. He's a bodybuilder as well. Mark Loebner happens to be Jewish, right? And I'm not saying that because I care. I just know he was calling Israel Nazis often, even though he's a Jew, because he didn't like what they were doing in Israel when it came to the forced vaccination stuff. But according to these hate speech laws, even though Mark Loebner happens to be Jewish, he would not be able to essentially call them Nazis for their insane forced vaccination policies that they had, because that's just classic anti-Semitism to compare their contemporary policy to that of the Nazis, even though, contemporary policy that they've done in the past couple of years has been lockdowns and vaccine mandates. So isn't that just interesting? And I'm just going to move on. The last one's really not important, but I just want to show you on the State Department website, they're bragging that anti-Semitic acts are criminal and criminal acts are anti-Semitic. Obviously, it's not a crime to say what I'm saying right now or they'd throw me in jail, but they're working on it. Trust me. They're bragging that it's like, we don't have the full power to stop all speech yet, but we're trying. So now let's fast forward. Why am I saying this about Ron DeSantis? Because this is the first bill that Ron DeSantis passed in Israel. And once again, I just want to explain and rehash this. There has never in Florida's entire state history been a Florida bill passed in a foreign country, because it doesn't make sense to pass Florida bills anywhere but Florida, really. But Ron DeSantis flew to Israel to pass a bill in Israel for Florida for Israel. Here's the first bill he passed, because this is the one that really infringes on speech, in my opinion. It's called HB 741, anti-Semitism. It passed Senate 40-0 and the House 114-0. It didn't have one single person in Florida disagree with it. I'm going to read it. This bill prohibits discrimination on the basis of religion in the K through 20 public school system. Additionally, the bill requires public K through 20 educational institutions to treat discrimination by students or employees or resulting from institutional policies motivated by anti-Semitic intent in an identical manner to discrimination motivated by race. The bill provides that for the purpose of anti-Semitism provision, anti-Semitism includes a certain perception of the Jewish people, which may be expressed as hatred towards the Jewish people, rhetorical and physical manifestation of anti-Semitism directed towards a person. The bill also provides many examples of anti-Semitism. Here's two of them. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than the interests of our own nations. Do you notice it's the same exact thing I just read? Because they're copy and pasting what's on the State Department website and considering everything I just read before anti-Semitism. The bill also provides that example of anti-Semitism related to Israel to include applying a double standard to Israel by requiring behavior of Israel that is not expected or demanded by any other democratic nation, or focusing on peace and human rights investigations on Israel, or only on Israel, delegitimizing Israel by denying them existence. So let me just explain to you why I'm reading this. So Ron DeSantis said, I'm passing a religious discrimination bill that religion's going to go under race and you can't discriminate against religion. Is this a religious bill for all religions? Well, it's not. Does it include Christian hate speech laws? It doesn't. Does it include Muslim hate speech laws? No. Does it include Hindu hate speech laws? No. It includes ethnic protection for non-religious Jews and basically Israeli loyalty speech laws that have nothing to do with just the religion, but it has to do with a foreign country. So Ron DeSantis essentially flew to Israel and passed a Israeli loyalty hate speech Florida bill in Israel for Israel that made it hate speech to criticize Israel in a way that Israel and the donors who fund DeSantis and Trump don't want you to criticize them. So this is my beef with this bill. Multiple things. One, if you're going to say that ethnically Jewish people are protected from hate speech and you can't say this and that about ethnically Jewish, because most Jewish people aren't even really that religious. So it's an ethnic religious fusion bill that's really just a foreign country bill. If you're going to do that, which I don't agree with from a constitutional standpoint, where are the protections for every other? You didn't say it was a Jewish bill. You said it's a religious bill. It's for religions. But it only mentions one religion in the bill, and in that religion bill for the one religion, it gives protection to non-religious people in a country regardless of what their ethnicity or religion is. So what are you really doing here? In my opinion, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, most of the GOP except for Thomas Massie and a few others, and most of the Democratic Party outside of the Squad and a few other Looney Tunes, most people understand how U.S. politics work. Everything matters unless Big Pharma comes to town, then all of a sudden you're selling vaccines harder than Bill Gates. Everything matters because why do you think Donald Trump and everybody, even DeSantis and all these people, like why were they so gung-ho to sell these pharmacy products? Like, did they really believe in them? Maybe. It's a possibility. I don't know what's going on in their head. Maybe Big Pharma controls the television. Maybe Big Pharma controls both sides of politics. Maybe Big Pharma is a big donor like Anheuser-Busch, except bigger. So when it comes to these speech laws, do I think that Ron DeSantis is passing these because he thinks it's going to help Jewish people? I don't think so. Do I think he's passing it for Christians? They think so. I don't. I think he's passing it because the donors who fund Trump and DeSantis want these laws passed, and I don't think they'll give them the money if they don't listen. The mega donor on the right, before he passed, now it'll probably be his wife if she wants to continue, was Sheldon Adelson. Sheldon Adelson has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on the GOP, including tens of millions of dollars on Donald Trump. And he said on stage that he served in the American military, and if his kids will serve Israel, and he regrets essentially serving America. He's basically on stage being like, yeah, I like Israel better, but you can't say that though. And they're passing speech laws, so schools can't say it, but schools can basically say other things. It's a religious bill, just not for your religion. It's pretty obvious what's going on, but whatever. The one that he passed today in Israel, once again, I believe this is the second bill in Florida history ever passed on Florida soil. This is how blatant it is. They fly to a foreign country. They pass a bill in a foreign country for a foreign country right in front of your face, and nobody cares. And the funny part is people are actually going to listen to me now about this because Trump programmed people to hate DeSantis like 3 months ago. I said this in 2019. This is the irony of all of it. Before I read the bill, I don't just hate Trump or hate DeSantis or hate this or hate that. I don't hate like that. I'm not a hater. I just like the truth. I like my country. I don't have loyalty to another country. I just don't. I wish I did. Sometimes it's like I wish I had somewhere to go. I don't. I'm born and raised in America. I'm Italian. I'm Polish. I don't know much about it. I don't speak the language. I can't go there really. So I'm American. With that being said, when I said this in 2019, no one wanted to hear it. But the funny part is all these people that just love DeSantis, they just overnight when Trump told them DeSantis was corrupt, they're like, DeSantis is corrupt. It's like, I was willing to call him out 3 years ago when you were on his nuts. No, sorry, I could have used a nicer thing, on his nuts. And nobody wanted to listen to me. And now all of a sudden Trump programmed you to hate DeSantis, and now you're like the biggest DeSantis hater, but you don't even know what you're hating. You're just listening to Trump. So I'm glad people are willing to listen to my critique of DeSantis now, because I've been making it for 4 years and it's fallen on deaf ears until Trump told people to dislike DeSantis. So thank you one way or another for considering what I'm saying now. I don't care how people get it. The truth is the truth. The new one he passed is HB 269. So this one, the first one was more of a hate speech situation, defining what hate speech is, saying that it can't be said in schools. Trump actually passed an executive order almost identical, except it was making it harder to boycott, divest, or sanction Israel or protest Israel on a college campus or speak out against them. So just like DeSantis passed this in Florida, Donald Trump passed an executive order for the whole country to essentially shut down conversation on college campuses. And Charlie Kirk, what's his name, Prager, Ben Shapiro, this is when I started getting blacklisted by a lot of conservative media. I started going on my friend's podcast. Guys, I'm not trying to say anything. I don't need anything from anyone. But there's a reason that people don't offer me jobs and people don't want to work with me. They know I'm a bigger star than everybody on their network. They know I'd get better numbers. They know I'm running circles around 95% of the talent they sign. But they've all essentially blacklisted me because they just want people to shut up about this topic. That's the truth. This is who controls the GOP and the Republican media. So when I started noticing that Shapiro and Prager were saying no safe spaces, and they're selling a no safe spaces documentary with Adam Carolla, and I noticed that Trump passed an executive order to essentially create a safe space on a college campus for Israel and criticism of anything that they do irrationally in a way that it would be like passing a George Floyd hate speech law. You can't talk about crime statistics. You can't do this. You can't do that. I don't believe in hate speech laws. So I started speaking about this on podcasts back when I used to get invited more. And people were telling me, we have to cut the segment. We're sponsored by this person. We can't air that. We can't have you say that. They're calling you far right. They're doing this. They essentially tried to, without saying it publicly, blacklist me behind the scenes because I believe in the First Amendment and I'm a principled person that believes you shouldn't shut down Ben Shapiro on a college campus. And you shouldn't shut down Abby Martin on a college campus. I don't even like Abby Martin, the left-wing progressive. I think she's kind of dumb, but she's, whatever. She's now getting shut down because of Trump's executive order. So, the right wing is fake. This is why 4 years of Trump ends in vaccine sales and lockdowns. It's because the right wing is fake. They're not really fighting for your speech. They're not really fighting socialism. They're not really fighting Fauci. They're not really fighting Bill Gates. And they're not really fighting Gavin Newsom. They're friends with 90% of the people you think they're fighting, and they smile with a crooked, weaselly smile in your face as they print more money than Karl Marx on steroids. And people can't figure this stuff out. But for those listening, it's obvious. Back to this bill. HB 269. It's now a hate crime bill. So, this one, in my opinion, it's not as bad, but it's basically trying to hype up these. If you break the law, like putting flyers on people's cars, or have you ever gone to like an event and they put flyers on your cars or flyers by your door? It's essentially making that illegal. So if you're talking about Israel or Jews in any sort of way with flyers, it's hyping up those crimes, making it a way bigger crime, and trying to fine you to the maximum amount or throw you in jail for doing so. This is what I'll say. I don't personally, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion, I think a crime is a crime. I understand that they classify it different, but if you do something violent to somebody, doesn't matter if that person's black, white, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Asian, gay, straight, like a crime is a crime, in my opinion. A violent crime is a violent crime. They're all evil. Black on black, evil. Black on white, evil. White on black, evil. Jew on Christian, evil. Christian on Jew, evil. A crime is a crime. I don't understand this hate crime. It's like you'll go to jail for burning an LGBT flag quicker than you'll go to jail for burning an American flag. So that's what I think of hate crimes. I think they're all kind of trying to make a certain narrative seem worse than another, when the truth is good and evil is evil. I don't personally believe in overhyping everything as a hate crime. If it's a crime, it's a crime. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, my angle to this is, during the lockdown, they made it illegal to digitally protest the lockdown. They locked us in our houses, and they told us if we protested and made groups on Facebook, they were shutting it down. Then in New Jersey and other states, people tried to physically protest. They've taken away your digital right to protest. You want to physically protest, and now they're trying to make physical protests illegal, right? They did that during the lockdown. So it's like, you can't say this on Facebook, you can't say this on YouTube, and you can't say this on Twitter. And then people are like, well, I guess I'll say it in person. It's like, well, you can't say this in person either. I see this about flyers. If you want to say certain things about statistics of Jewish ownership of media and other stuff, you can't say it on Facebook. You can't say it on YouTube. You can't say it almost anywhere online. So then people are making flyers and they're passing them out in person. And now Ron DeSantis is basically making that illegal. So I understand a crime is a crime. You can't litter. You can't, like some of it's like projecting things on buildings you don't own. I get that. If you don't own a building, you can't commit a crime. Crimes are crimes. I don't agree with crimes. I don't care who you are or if I agree with you or disagree. Don't be a criminal. With that being said, to me, this is just another Israeli loyalty. It's Ron DeSantis, hop skipping for his donors, shaking his head like Carlton Banks, and, just showing him what a loyal, good boy he is. And, in my opinion, this is done for the donors. I don't think this is done organically. I don't think this is done equally. And, if someone does the same thing about your race and your religion and passes out flyers, chances are no one will care. It won't be considered a hate crime. They could probably get away with it. So I'm all about real equality. I know it's not like a perfect world where everything's going to be equal, but when it comes to the First Amendment, I think it's for everybody. I don't think it's for a certain race. I don't think certain races should have special protections, but I understand also that's just not the way the world works. So I read the whole bill. A lot of it I think is somewhat fair game as far as like, yeah, a crime is a crime, but they're basically just trying to hype up any sort of like passing out of flyers or physical activism, talking about Israel or Jewish statistics, which you're not allowed to talk about online. Overall, someone said this dude has gone woke. What are you? It's like people are so brainwashed by false paradigms that they just can't like fathom what I'm talking about. It's like if Trump shares a Joy Reid MSNBC blog and I'm like, why did he do that? People are like, what are you, MSNBC? It's like, I'm MSNBC, not the guy sharing MSNBC article. Like, people are so brainwashed by like Trump, DeSantis false paradigms, left, right false paradigms, woke versus non-woke. Like, how is what I'm saying woke? It's First Amendment. This is like how brain dead the base is, which is why they get away with all this stuff. In general, my narrative recently has been no one's the victim. So if you don't want to hear what I'm saying, I don't mind. But if you don't understand what the First Amendment is and you start agreeing with hate speech and hate rules and hate laws, but then you're going to go cry watching Dan Bongino or Steven Crowder when the left, oh, the left. Everyone's like, but the left. It's like, if you're not principled in your own beliefs for yourself and your own party, you don't deserve the First Amendment. The First Amendment, everyone in the world doesn't have it. America has it. I didn't work for the First Amendment when I was born. Someone smarter than me and someone more disciplined than me created the First Amendment hundreds of years ago based off of, I would say, small government principles and pro-freedom principles. And now we have the First Amendment. So if we want to keep the First Amendment, we have to work on that. If you're willing to give up the First Amendment, a principled stance for the First Amendment's woke, this is like the average, no offense, Republican voter. This is why you end up in a lockdown. This is why Trump feels emboldened to sell vaccines harder than Bill Gates and say he's friends with Gavin Newsom. This is why they could print $6 trillion and tell you you're fighting socialism. What if I told you the right wing isn't holding the line on the Second Amendment? That's a provable fact. They're not holding the line on the First Amendment. That's a provable fact. They're not rejecting socialism. They did more socialism than Obama in some ways. What if I told you that the right wing wasn't doing what they said they're doing? Would that bother you? Because Dan Bongino and Steven Crowder are like, the left, oh, the left, oh no, the left is going to shut down college campuses, honk, 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 honk. I listen to Tennis Break. It's like, okay, yeah, the left is doing that. I agree. But I just showed you that also the right wing is doing that also. It's not woke. Woke is passing an executive order saying it's now illegal to criticize a foreign country on a college campus. That's woke. Woke is not saying the First Amendment gives you the right. If you can criticize America on a college campus, why would you not be able to criticize Israel on a college campus. Doesn't that bother you that the Republican Party is infringing on the First Amendment? And while they're selling a bunch of fake, documentaries that they don't actually believe because they have ethnic pride and they like a foreign country more than America, that instead of admitting that, they're passing laws to make it illegal for you to say that while they're making it illegal to boycott a foreign country on a college campus. You don't get that because you got brainwashed by AOC, honk, 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 Ilhan Omar. They bring up Ilhan Omar every time they want to pass a speech law. That's how foolish people are. And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to break it down as kindly as possible. Maybe I'm a little sarcastic, but how do they get you to sell out your own freedom? Hey, patriots, it's the Patriot Act. Ha, 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 ha. We're patriots. The only way to fight the Muslims is to give up your own personal privacy. Honk, honk, honk. I'm Sean Hannity. Honk, honk. And people are like, well, I guess we got to fight the terrorists by giving up our own liberties. And, George Bush lied to you, and Sean Hannity lied to you, and, the Iraq war lied to you, and you gave up your own freedoms. And then, now you have an opportunity to learn from that mistake, right? Just like Democrats should learn, but they never do. Now we fast forward to now. DeSantis and Trump and the GOP are openly giving away your freedom. And when they do it, just like George Bush said, the Patriot Act, they have to package it so you don't understand, which they do very successfully. And here's the secret. The Democrats think their base is stupid. And they're right. We're not the victim. Democrats look at their base and think these people are so stupid and so emotional that they'll believe our lies. And the Democrats are right. And the Republicans essentially do the same stuff. And I'm asking you to prove them wrong. Don't prove them right, because maybe they're right. I don't think they are, but maybe they are. They look at you and think, how do we infringe on the First Amendment for our donor class in a foreign country that manipulates us? How can we get right-wingers to be okay with infringements on First Amendment and hate speech laws? And they look at Ilhan Omar, and they're using the Muslim thing again. Let me preface this with, I don't like Ilhan Omar. I think she's low IQ. I think she's one of the dumber people in Congress. And I would say ideologically, I probably disagree with Ilhan Omar like 95 to 99%. I'm not an Ilhan Omar fan. I find her politics domestically and foreign goofy. I don't think she's really a genuine person. But, she criticizes Israel. So when the Republican Party wants to pass a law that infringes on American amendments, they dangle Ilhan Omar because they know that Fox News and Dan Bongino and all these people will be like, Ilhan Omar, and you'll be like, Ilhan Omar, and then they'll pass a speech law. They've done it multiple times. When they condemned Ilhan Omar, people didn't even pay attention to why that was. I don't even like Ilhan Omar, but she said, it's all about the Benjamins. Israel has money. It's all about the Benjamins. And they said, that's classic anti-Semitism. That's anti-Semitic to say it's all about the Benjamins. Are Republicans this stupid? You think it's hate speech to say it's all about money? It is all about money. You think America would invade Saudi Arabia the same way they invaded Libya? You think that Israel doesn't control American politics and Saudi Arabia and China don't have influence because of money? China has influence because we're dependent on China and China's dependent on us. It is all about the money. It's absolutely all about the money. Our entire existence relies on the petrodollar. It's all about the money. We care about Venezuela because of the oil. It's all about the money. We do trade deals with other countries because it's all about the money. We're sending money to Zelensky to fight a war that we're pretending to not be a part of because it's all about the money. So when Ilhan Omar says it's all about the money, right-wingers truly believe it's anti-Semitic? No, it's factual. A broken clock is right twice a day. And what did they do when she said that? People don't pay attention. And I talked about this 3 years ago too. They pass a Congress condemnation resolution. And here's what happens. I followed the whole thing. If you don't, I've done thousands of hours of work so you could listen to me for 5 minutes and understand it. Feel free to do the research, but I crunch so much stuff that I'm giving you something that took me a long time to figure out in 5 minutes. They passed a condemnation resolution to say, oh, that's anti-Semitism to say it's about money. We need to pass this. And it goes back and forth, Democrats, Republicans, back and forth and back and forth. And by the time it gets passed by both parties, bipartisan, it's not even just for Jews in Israel anymore. It's like a left-wing, like Huffington Post rag, like average liberal San Francisco blogger thing. It doesn't just say, oh, don't criticize Israel or Jews. It says, and the Native Americans and black and, LGBT and the, impoverished community. And it's like, basically it's saying everything but white people and Christians. It's got like every race on there. So it's like, this is what Republicans do. They're like, that's anti-Semitic. We need to pass an anti-Semitic condemnation law so people in Congress can't talk about Israel. And by the time they pass it, it doesn't even have anything to do with Jews or Israel. It's black and women and Native Americans. And it's just like this whole like virtue signal of like, everybody's a victim. Don't talk about anybody. Everything's hate speech. We all agree because it started with Israel. That's what they do. And nobody pays attention. Bongino doesn't cover it. Tucker doesn't even really cover it. Ben Shapiro doesn't cover it. Nobody at the Daily Wire covers it. God bless Candace for coming on my show yesterday. She's a brave woman. Nobody else wants to talk to me. They're all afraid. Thank you, Candace. And she never, by the way, never asked me to censor, never says, don't ask me this, don't ask me that. Candace really, truly doesn't care. You don't have to agree with her. Some people like her. A lot of people like her. Some people don't. But she's definitely not somebody that comes and says, oh, don't say this or don't say that. She's one of the only people that's like that. Everybody else, they know they don't want to talk to me. Not because they think I'm right. They just know it's just easier to not. So I appreciate her for coming on and having a great convo. It was interesting. I think I asked better questions than a lot of people. Not to pat myself on the own back, but I had some good questions for it. In general, that's what's going on. So there's nothing woke about it. And I'm going to end on this note, and I'm going to try to keep this one brief so it's shareable. I don't believe in any sort of political, racial, religious violence. I really don't. Any sort of violence, I don't care if it's trans on Christian, that's evil. This person on synagogue, evil. This person on church, evil. You're a piece of garbage if you think that God made you to just go be a psychopath. Because honestly, not only do you hurt people that potentially have nothing to do with what you're talking about, but also you're actually helping their agenda. Usually they use that and pass more laws, and then you can't talk about this or that. So every which way, it's not only evil, but it's just not, it's not productive at all. With that being said, some people believe in hate. Some people believe in anger. Some people, and you could feel free to disagree with me. I'm sure half my audience does. Some people say, if I'm these people, I should hate white people. If I'm these people, I should hate the Jews. If I'm these people, I should hate black people. Or if I'm black, I should hate white people or Christians. I should hate people. Some people do believe in anger and hate because they just don't like what other groups are doing religiously or their mindset. I don't believe, I'm not a perfect person. I'm not saying I never get upset or angry, but I don't believe in anger or hate. I don't hate any country. I don't hate any people. I like Ye, but I'm not trying to knock him with this joke, but I knew there were good Jewish people before I watched 21 Jump Street. It was a hilarious thing where he's like, oh, I don't hate people anymore. I like Jonah Hill. I've had great Jewish people in my life. One of the nicest families to me when I was younger was Jewish. That would take me places. The mom was always super nice and respectful to me. And there's been some losers. The ADL, a lot of people in conservative media. There's winners and losers in every race in every country. A lot of people in Israel watch my show. A lot of Palestinians watch my show. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate any group. I don't hate any race. And I don't feel like I'm a victim. I'm not a victim to Jews. I'm not a victim to Israel. I don't think America's a victim. It's up to us to just speak the truth, be strong, and say what you want to say. There are a lot of people who talk about what I talk about, and they're angry and they're hateful and they have a bad attitude and they call names. That's not my style. And I just don't think not only is it not productive, it's just like, what are you doing? To me, that comes from weakness, right? No matter who you are, if you're truly strong and truly confident, do you. You know what I'm saying? I'm living proof. People might not believe this because they don't know my full story, but no one did anything for me, and no one's going to take what I did away. They're just not. I don't need Ben Shapiro's opinion or approval to say this. I'm going to say it. I don't need Prager's opinion or approval to say it. I don't care what they do. I don't care if they love me. I don't care if they come on the show. I don't care if they call me names and try to blacklist me behind closed doors. I don't know what they're doing, but I don't care. They're one person. They have a company. Cool. I have a voice. I have a microphone. No one's stopping you. But the energy of what I'm saying, in my opinion, to be critical of people who do talk about this is just my opinion. Most people who talk about this act angry and irrational, so nobody wants to listen to it because it does seem hateful because people are pissed off all the time. But the hypocrisy and the double standards are true. It's just the energy of people trying to bring this message is usually way off. And sometimes that manifests the other side. Like these people act, and then it just becomes a mess. But in general, I don't hate anybody. Has nothing to do with that. It's just the truth. America is America. And the truth is, I'm gonna lay down another truth that people don't realize. In Israel, I don't know if this is still a law, but because the article's from a few years ago, I assume it is. But if it's not a law now, it has been for most of Israel's existence. I think it still is. I just don't. I like to be accurate, so I'm not 1,000% sure, but I haven't seen that it's been overturned. If you work in the Israel Knesset in Israel, which is the Jewish Congress essentially, you can't have two passports. They don't allow it. You have to give up your American passport. You're a Jew from America, but you're Israeli. They make you give up your American passport. If you're a Jew that's Russian, they make you give up your Russian passport. They don't want dual loyalty in Jewish Congress. They say if you're a Jew and you love Israel, give up. You're not American anymore. You're an Israeli Jew and you serve Israel. In my opinion, do they hate me? Do they hate America? Do they hate Russia? No, I think it's actually smart. In America, there are hundreds of lawmakers with two passports, most of them to Israel. So here's where Israel and America are different. In Israel, you can't serve in their government with two passports. You need to prove loyalty to Israel and give up your other passport. In America, you not only can have two passports and dual loyalty, but instead, Ron DeSanctimonious Meatball, Donald the vaccine salesman Trump, and most left-wingers pass hate speech rules to say that it's now hate speech to suggest that people might have loyalty to another country. And it's a joke. Listen, I don't dislike Dennis Prager as a person. He's had some good takes. He said some things with more foresight than me. I'm going to give him credit. On the lockdowns, his instinct was good on the lockdowns, quicker than me, to be honest. With certain, not everything, but certain things, he was like, I don't want a lockdown. I don't even want to do it for a day. Got to give him credit. With that being said, Dennis Prager absolutely has loyalty to Israel, and you're lying to yourself if you say not, and he's lying to you if he says not. He brags when he was defending Candace that he sent so many people to Israel. Why? Because he's Jewish, and he happens to love Israel. So he uses his platform to basically lobby for Israel, send people to Israel. You think Dennis Prager doesn't care about Israel? That's like saying Michael Jordan didn't play for the Bulls or Warren Buffett never invested in Coca-Cola. It's not true. So why would Congress be passing? Hundreds of people in Congress have dual passports to Israel. Ron DeSantis is passing Florida bills breaking records in Israel, for Florida, but for Israel. Why would they be passing hate speech laws to make it illegal for me to say that Ben Shapiro has loyalty to Israel? Why does Ben Shapiro think it's anti-Semitism? For me to say that he likes America and Israel? Of course he does. It's because it's disingenuous. It's, dare I say, sneaky? It's sneaky to love another country, work to help another country, and then try to say it's hate speech to say you're doing that. It's just plain sneaky. And in my view, there have been a lot of people in the world that have overcome hate by just being hardworking people. People used to hate Irish people. Now, nobody even thinks about it. Why? I don't know. Did Irish people pass a speech law? I don't think so. I just think people eventually stopped hating them. I don't know. My Italian family told me people were racist against them. They didn't even want my grandma to marry my grandfather because he was Italian. People hated Italian people. They racially, ethnically despised them in the 50s for whatever reason. I don't know. I think maybe because Italians are like, they called them grease balls, whatever. I don't know, because they had some swag. You know what I'm saying? Italians, they had some style to them. They weren't just cookie cutter wearing suits or whatever. I don't know why people hated Italians, but guess what? There's not a single law in American politics that says you can't say that Italians run the media. You can't say that Italians control government. Why is there no law to say that? There used to be, because everybody knows that's not true. So nobody's saying it. And if they did, no one cares. So why would they be passing all these laws? Because Most of the laws are true and they just don't want to admit it, which is very sneaky and makes people trust you less. You can't legislate hate. You can't legislate trust. And you can't keep being untrustworthy and then making laws to make people not talk about it. It's very counterproductive. We talked about this with Candace yesterday, but the best way to be a race advocate for your race, if that's what you want to do, some people don't care. They're like, I don't care what race I am. Good. There's more important things. But if you do, also, I'm not going to call you a racist, whether you're white, black, or Jewish. If that's what you feel like you're called to do, then who am I to tell you who you are or what's important? But with that being said, if you do want to be an advocate for your race, the best way to do it is to be cool and be honest and be likable. It's just true. It's like you can't be Sean King advocate. Like, it's annoying. You know what I'm saying? You can't, like Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL. He's so cringe, yet he wants people to like his people, but he's so annoying. And it just makes people hate them more. It's like, the best way to put on for your people is just to be cool, honest, likable, crush in some industry, music, sports. Like, I love MMA. And I don't care about race when I watch MMA. I really don't. It's about who the person is, what their personality's like, how good of a fighter they are. If you're a black fighter and you're on a 10-fight win streak, it's just impressive. Nobody looks like, oh, that guy I don't like. It's like, dude, that guy's a legend. And if you're white and you're like Khabib, you're like, or Conor McGregor, nobody looks at him like, oh, Conor's just a white guy. No, he's more beloved than other people. It's just, you earn your respect, you earn your love, you earn your trust. That's the way the world works. So to anybody of any race that wants to help their race, you can't be cringe and fake and lie and pass laws to say that it doesn't work that way. And this is my final opinion before I take off. I believe, based on evidence, that Trump, DeSantis, the GOP, Democrats, they're not passing these to stop hate or violence. I wish they were, because there's too much violence in this world and there's too much hate. I don't think you can legislate hate out, but violence, obviously, you can make illegal, and it already is illegal. So this is as disingenuous as when the left-wingers are like, we need to make lynching illegal. Do you remember when they did that off the whole Jussie Smollett thing? As soon as Jussie Smollett got Subway sandwiched by whatever, all of a sudden they're passing these laws, and everyone's like, oh, wow, Jussie Smollett got lynched, and Kamala Harris needs to pass a lynching law. Guys, it's already illegal. It's illegal to lynch. You can't just do that to somebody. It's illegal in all 50 states. You think there's a state where you can lynch somebody and it's just like, yeah, that's just how it is. It doesn't exist. Violence is violence. It's already a law. I'm trying to make that same point here. I don't believe in violence. It's just like, it's already illegal. So all these things are just adding other things based off, yeah, of course it's illegal. Yeah, you can't do that in any state. But I don't know what obscure law they're pointing to or what they're pushing behind legislation, but whatever. But in general, I wish that I thought Republicans and Democrats were doing this for the best interest of our nation and people and everyone. I don't. I think they're doing this for the same reason they sold Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines 2 years. I think they're compromised. And in fact, I know they're compromised. And this is the false paradigm that Trump's painting. Trump and DeSantis are controlled by the same people who want the same stuff, and they're both passing these hate speech laws. That's the truth. They're doing it for the donor class. And what I like about DeSantis, even though I just complain about him the whole live stream, I like that people don't just fully trust him. That's actually a healthy thing. The fact that people hallucinate that Donald Trump is locking down the world to save the world, like, that's psychotic. Donald Trump has a spell on people. And Donald Trump accusing DeSantis of things he's doing is tricking Republicans. Trump saying that Florida would have been just as good under a Democrat, I don't think so. I mean, there would have been maybe some things that are similar, but I don't think that Gavin Newsom's doing as good of a job as Kristi Noem. I complain about Republicans all the time, but I'm also a registered Republican. I think locally it absolutely does matter. And even nationally, a few things will change, but just not as much as people think, in my opinion. And if it ends in a lockdown and vaccine sales, that's not good enough. The Republicans need to step it up. With that being said, I believe they're doing it for their donors. And I believe that Trump is painting this false DeSantis-Trump paradigm for his own selfish interest, not to expose the rhinos that he hired and that he worked with and that he campaigned with for years and that he endorsed. That's not why he's doing it. He's doing it because he wants to win. That's fine. But I just want to wake people up and say, I'm willing to call out DeSantis when it makes sense. But Trump is doing these same stuff, and nobody cares. So at this point, I don't really want to get into the Trump and DeSantis, but overall, we'll talk about it later of what I think. But it's a false paradigm that Trump's painting because it doesn't actually address the real issue. And to me, this is the number one thing in politics. I'm not saying there's not more important stuff out there, but the First Amendment is important. And I think, you know, if our politicians are being controlled and essentially working harder for a foreign country than they are America, that becomes a problem. It doesn't mean I hate Saudi Arabia if I didn't want Saudi Arabian speech laws in America. It doesn't mean I hate Ukraine because I don't want to send money to Ukraine. I'm American. I live in America. I want American politicians to focus on America the same way Israeli politicians focus on Israel, the same way Saudi Arabian politics focus on Saudi Arabia. I don't believe a foreign country should have priority or control over American Congress. And for that reason, I am considered unpopular in the GOP because their entire shtick is what I just said I don't believe in, which is America first. They say America first, but they don't really mean it. And with that being said, when it comes to talking about patterns, etc., I understand that some people can be hateful and there's a nice way to say it. And a lot of people are psychotic. Like, let's just be honest. There's a lot of crazy people out there. There's a lot of angry people out there. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't care if people agree with me or not. It's like, you know, be more calculated with what you're saying and stop being so weird. You know, it's like, it is what it is. But on that note, I just want to explain this when it comes to statistics, because this is something that like Tim Pool will never talk about and most people never talk about. It's not hateful to understand patterns of demographic change. It's just not. It's fake. I understand as a human, everybody can be someone. You're not black or a Jew. Like you don't have to just be everyone else. Like God made you to be yourself. You're allowed to be who you want to be. But with that being said, patterns and demographics do exist. They just do. The easiest example I could say that, and then I'm really out, is if you replace, say, Los Angeles. If it's 100% Mormon, you think it's going to be the same laws and rules and crime rates or whatever or anything as if it was 100%, Afghani Muslim? And I'm not trying to pick a bad stat. Let's just say like abortion. If it's 100% left-wingers, it's going to be legal to abort your kid like mid-birth. If you replace those liberals with Muslims, they're going to change the law to make, abortion illegal, and Christians would do the same. It's not hateful to Muslims or Christians or liberals even to say that demographics and patterns and religions and race does play some sort of role. If 70 to 90% of black people vote for Democrats and this city goes from 0% black to 80% black, the chances are Democrats are going to win that state and the laws are going to change. That's just true. That's just objectively true, whether you agree with it or not. So why, if that's true with Christian and Muslim, is that not true with Jewish? There's nothing. If, say, in a hypothetical alternate reality that, a lot of media companies, et cetera, and sports leagues are being dominated by, Jewish people who are either ethnically or religiously Jewish. And even though obviously they're going to disagree, just like Christians, there's going to be some patterns. No, there's not. Nothing matters. Only for everyone else. It matters for everyone. And you got to pass a speech law to suggest that people aren't saying it. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it's, I don't think it's genuine. And I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's just 99% of Republicans want donor monies, want Mar-a-Lago steaks, want to hang out with DeSantis, want to get invited to CPAC, and they want to work at Prager or Daily Wire. And everybody knows if they say what I'm saying, their chances of that are slimming up more than they are now. Everybody knows what I'm saying is true. Everybody at this point gets what I'm talking about, but they understand who's really running the show in conservative media, so they don't really want to ruffle feathers, which is fine. But I'm coming from a genuine place. I hope you can see that. I don't hate anybody, not trying to hurt anybody. Some people really disagree with a foreign country. I'm focused on America. I'm not here to criticize that country or that country as much as others either. I'm focused on us. So appreciate you guys. Thank you. God bless everybody. And my goal is to protect the First Amendment and also just actually stop people from hating and fighting so much. I don't believe in that, whether it's in Israel or Palestine or America, but you can't do that by legislating disproportional, hypocritical, and double standard hate speech for certain people and not for others. Doesn't work that way. I don't agree with it, and I don't have to. God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support.